good morning, and welcome to Table Talk with Brenda Perryman right here on TV 33 WHPR, Comcast 90 in Detroit, and courtesy of the World Wide Web, www.tv33whpr.com. And boy, we have a hot show for you today and a lot of hot topics. So let me introduce my co-host for today.
Good morning, Tamika Ashford, president of the Ashford Agency, a boutique PR firm.
Tamika's full of vigor today.
Thank you.
Dr. Rose Moulton, clinical psychologist, author, and speaker.
Ryan Perryman, son of Brenda Perryman, and account exec for Holton Mifflin Harcourt in Ohio.
Wow.
Indicated the most important
Yes,
part
yes,
first.
the first part.
Oh, he didn't have to say that. Well, as is our tradition, I'm going to read an excerpt from On This Day in African American Life in Detroit by Mr. Ken Coleman. And on this day, July 25th, in 1974, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a divided 5-4 vote, reverses two lower court rulings and declared that area public school districts aren't required to bus African American and white students to promote racial integration in Detroit and 53 surrounding suburban communities. Boy, I remember this. The landmark case, Bradley versus Milliken, is a class action lawsuit involving local plaintiffs, parents, and the NAACP. They'd argued that the state of Michigan and Detroit Public Schools had practiced discrimination among black children. Ultimately, busing will take place, but only within Detroit, where a disproportionate percentage of the school district students are African American. I remember it was very violent. It got violent. It was terrible. But we have a lot that we're dealing with today, and one of the first things we're talking about is the Malaysian flight that was shot down and the indignity of the field. Can any of you speak to that?
Yeah, I recently heard a reporter, one of the international reporters, discussing last week before they allowed people to actually come in and retrieve the body. She was there reporting on the outskirts, and just random people were coming up to her with artifacts, wallets and passports, like here I found this, because they wanted the reporters to get it back to the rightful owners, the wallets and passports and other personal effects. And it just sounds like a horrific nightmare for the families of these people to know that they just stockpiled them in refrigerated train cars and for days before they would allow the authorities to come in to get these bodies back to where they needed to be for a proper burial.
I just think that when you look at it on the news, and as they're picking up some of the rubble from the accident, this is like a trash pickup. And these are like, unfortunately, the graves of these families. And I can imagine having a family member who crashed, and they're like just picking up things and throwing them in trash bags. The site wasn't secure. People are just reporting on the crash site. There's nothing quarantined.
And the belongings had been pilfered.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Stolen. Some of them have been stolen. I just think some of that, the whole crash site's been like desecrated. So I don't know if, I guess they know how it happened. And I guess they do know, they're trying to, the bodies actually are getting right now analyzed, I believe, by the Dutch. But I think that just the fact that if you have a loved one and see that site like that, it's pretty bad. It's pretty horrible.
Yeah. Talk about throwing salt in a wound.
Right. Definitely.
It's terrible. And a lot of people I've been reading, and I don't know if they've been joking or whatever, but they said they're getting afraid to fly.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that point, then we were just listening on the way over here. Like there's a 1 in 4 million chance that you could die in a plane crash kind of thing. They just had that plane crash in Algeria
Yesterday.
and they were kind of conspiracy theorists were saying, well, was that a missile going? And that didn't happen there. I just think that
Well, that was a part of aerospace, I think, that they weren't supposed to be. I see airspace. That's another thing. How do if you change your path because of the weather, could you be going into a hostile airspace?
Yeah.
Could be.
But that's what the the aviation, FAA here and other aviation departments in other countries are there for. But again, like we discussed last week, a lot of other flights avoided that area because they had already been alerted to the, unrest in that particular area. However, Malaysian flight didn't assume that these, as they call separatists on the ground, would have a missile that could go up 33,000 feet in the air.
Right.
Because I was listening to a news story yesterday, and they said this was unheard of. 5 to 10 years ago, about these insurgents or these separatists or these terrorists, and they had the shoulder missiles that could
Right.
take down helicopters or other low-flying aircrafts, but a commercial jet, and to have this truck on there with a satellite system to know that there was a plane going, provided by the Russians, allegedly, going ahead. But it was no way. These satellite systems don't tell you if this is a commercial airliner or
Right,
if this
right.
is, the enemy coming toward you. So it's just unfortunate. It won't stop me from flying.
One thing, now, if you want to talk about Malaysian Airlines specific tragedies,
Oh.
that's different because Malaysian Airlines had a tragedy, I believe, within the last 5 months. Remember when that plane disappeared over the Indian Ocean?
Still
Then
missing.
you had this happen. Now, Malaysian Airlines, if I had to, now if I were to get a ticket that said Malaysian Airlines, I'd kind of, I'd hesitate just slightly.
Yeah,
Just, okay,
at this point.
2 crashes in the last 5 months. I mean, that one in
Well,
1 million-
disappeared.
Yeah,
Bizarre.
yeah, it's kind of bizarre. So you
yeah,
kind of, I'd
incidents.
second guess at that. But again, for people who fly, I flew a lot in my basketball days. I think that's a worry that we could squinch a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They say Malaysian Airlines may be going out of business.
Or at least change your name.
Yeah, or something.
Brand campaign or something.
Right.
Listen to the PR person talking about the new brand campaign.
I'm available.
Change the logo or something. Hopefully, they don't recognize it. It's called Malaysia or something. But I just think you see Malaysian flight, you just think about the flight that disappeared, and then you think
Yeah.
about this. And 2 horrific endings. Like
I
mean,
know.
one got hit by a missile. It wasn't a rocket. It wasn't a hand missile.
Yeah.
This was like a sophisticated missile system with a radar on
That
it
they say don't miss.
that don't miss. That kind of they showed the
It locks
animation-
in.
They showed the animation on NBC. It was just horrific.
I heard
how
about that. I
it
didn't
was
see it.
flying, and it was just you could see it, and it kind of
Really?
the plane. Yeah, it was kind of
Yes,
hard.
cut it in
Maneuvers.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cut it
and I
in
think
half.
they show too much with the media. Sometimes, enough is
Right.
enough, and sometimes they just sensationalize. And
Right.
I think that there needs to be some type of filter out there. I don't think that the audience needs to see everything.
Right.
It's tragic enough for the family
Right.
to have to endure such a thing, and I think to see the replay and to see
Right.
all of the intricate details. I just don't think it should play out that way. I think people still can get an understanding as to what happened without seeing, the scene of the crime,
Yeah,
the scene
I
and
agree.
all of
Yeah.
I
those
agree
types of
with
things.
Well, another thing that's been top heavy in the news is Eric Gardner, the young man who was selling Lucy's and the chokehold that killed him. And I could only watch that video one time because here this guy is laying on the ground and people, they're not treating it as if it was a life they need to save his life,
Yeah.
in other words. And it was and I checked with my nephew, who is a New York City police officer, who said that totally is not in the books to do that. And he said he knew the officer is done for.
Well, they said this officer had a lawsuit for doing the exact same thing, just several lawsuits.
Right.
And is known for that tactic, but he was still put out on the street.
And the guy did not resist. I mean, well, he said, leave me
Yeah,
alone,
yes.
He didn't
but
have a chance. It was
he did.
Well, historically, most of the time, black men don't. You have, at least I've never seen African American police officers kill someone of Caucasian descent, of European descent. I've never seen it. I've never seen African American police officers punch a Caucasian woman in the face. And so just historically for hundreds of years, we've seen this trend, and it makes me think, where is the NAACP? Where's the Urban League? When we see things like this happen, I did hear Al Sharpton give a commentary on this, but where's the alarm? I mean, no one is really sounding the alarm, and it's not just in New York, But in major cities
You-
across
well, you know
America,
what happened in New York was the fact that the police chief came in right away and he said, "This is not what we're supposed to do." He kind of, I'm not saying diffuse the situation, but
control.
he did some
And
damage
he did
control.
suspend the cop right away. I thought the action was swift. The first thing I did, you know, it's kind of, you see this on the news and you were just talking to it, kind of walk in, I'm just eating dinner, I'm saying, like, what is going on here? You got DVR, you get to pause it and you look again. And I just felt, I mean, he was a black man. I just felt like you
Yeah.
can't treat a human being
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. Regardless.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Asian, you just do not do that. It was, and then when he was on the ground, the EMS people weren't even acting like it was an urgent.
yeah, no sense
No
of
sense of urgency with this
Yeah.
man. I mean,
That's the part I
and
don't
that's the
really
part I
get.
didn't- the reaction to that
Yeah.
once it happened.
I mean, I don't get, of course, what happened, but the EMS kind of
Yeah,
just
they kind
showing
of
up.
just walking around, kind of like, hey, you know,
No regard for life.
no regard for life. And I thought that, you know, they took his badge. I thought the reaction was what people wanted to see. And then, but I just think that this chokehold has been outlawed since 1994. And we'd be all remiss to say that it hasn't happened since then.
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong. And I'll say this, I don't know what kind of things cops deal with on a day-to-day, but I know with the cameras out these days and seeing this is one of the most horrific things you could see.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you were just speaking about that they've showed over and over that I could only have
Over.
to watch.
Every time they talked about it, they had to show the film. And then there were several, because I did see it more than once, where you just saw the guy laying on the ground. I
Yeah.
think he was already dead.
Yeah,
I think he was
absolutely.
already dead.
It's just, but I have another thing to say about people who take pictures of things, though. Why don't you try putting down your camera and help?
Yeah.
Too many times I see now people have a camera phone
They want to
that are
check.
taking.
They want to check.
They want to see horrific things happening, but not once does anybody ever put the camera down. Why don't you try giving somebody a
Yeah.
hand or break up a fight or intervene for a chance and put your camera phone down for a minute? Because
Yeah.
I've seen too much of that happening when people are just filming this thing
Voyeurs.
for 5
Yeah.
minutes and like this guy's dying or just intervene, call the cops, do something.
And you know, that's a double-edged sword because I agree with you, but in the same sense, this shows us proof.
Right.
You know,
Right, I
and so
agree.
it's
I agree.
like,
It is a
ugh.
double-
And
I
the
agree.
same sense is those are police officers. What's going to happen to me if I get up there amidst the
Yeah,
police
but I'm
officers?
not saying totally in this the cop instance, but I've seen instances that are
Yeah,
non-crime
exactly.
incidents that are just or a fight or
Oh.
something.
The young kids in the schools.
and
Oh,
they're just
gosh.
happening, and like, why don't somebody put the camera down?
World star
and
hip hop.
and do something now. And then, and I agree, the outrage is huge for this, and we've had too many of our black males taken down like this, these kind of. But I think that, and my mother knows this, she knows I'm going to say that. I think the response by Ralph Sharpton and them is relevant. I think the NAACP response is relevant in this, but sometimes I think we respond to this issue
Yeah.
when then we have 47 people shot over the weekend
Absolutely.
in Chicago.
Absolutely.
Where's the response from our urban community then,
Across
though?
the board,
So
yes.
what if that was another black male having another black male by a chokehold?
We wouldn't have this
Yeah.
conversation.
We wouldn't have this
Yeah.
conversation. I think.
And you know why? Because the media wouldn't be there.
The
And
media
I
wouldn't
hate
be
to
there.
say
Yeah,
that,
I
but
agree.
you know, there are media mongers who,
Yep,
if they
I agree.
see an
I agree.
opportunity that's
So,
making the news,
If Reverend Al Sharpton and our black leaders were there for those things and bringing outrage to these things, then maybe those are things I think demand. Of course, this gets the attention because it's white cop, black cop, New York City camera, but 47 people shot in 48 hours.
yeah,
It's just, and an 11-year-old girl sitting on her bedroom
Yeah.
floor got killed. It's just that is the kind of things that really makes my blood
Yeah.
stir
Yeah.
when I hear that. And then, but then something happens with Donald Sterling, which is bad. and we're jumping on that, and it's like we have a lot more pressing
Yes,
issues
yes.
day to day, night to night that affect us all, immediately that I think need to be rectified.
Right.
you know, like we discussed the statistics as far as your chances of being killed in an air crash.
Right.
Your black man's statistics of being killed is by far higher by being
It
killed by
has to be
another
the
black
highest in the
man.
country.
You
Local
know,
corner store.
exactly, by
I mean,
another.
we all watch the first 48 sometime. And these communities are, I mean, they're decimated.
Yeah.
You can't even walk
Yeah.
to the store. You can't look at somebody wrong. You can't go to a club late. It's just those are the things I think are pressing issues in our community day to day. This is something that I think will actually get taken care of. That I thought it's just to see that was horrible. But
Yeah.
I think then every time I see Reverend Al Sharpton jumping on every little thing that happens when a white person does something to a black person, we do things to each other for far less
Yeah.
And
on a-
far more
and
often.
far more often, and that's one thing I think we need to rectify to kind of, help us all out a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. because I mean that Donald Sterling thing, trying to fly to the game and all this stuff, it gets to be too much. I know what you're going to say, Al Sharpton, and everything, and I noticed it seemed like Jesse's been a little quiet. Or did he go to the funeral? I guess Al Sharpton has declared himself leader of black people.
I mean, yeah, but I just think it's a different leader we need now. It isn't
I
all
do.
civil rights.
Yeah,
I do.
absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
It's and I think those leaders had a certain spot in our lives, maybe 30, 40. I just think it's a different leader right
It
now.
is.
It's
just-
a multitude of leaders.
There you
It's a
go.
Yeah.
multitude.
I
It's
agree.
not just one.
Right.
But it will take a multitude.
I
Yeah.
agree.
You know, the
I
Dr.
agree.
Roses and
Because
so forth.
because
Yeah.
I'm
I
thinking,
agree.
let's promote. You know, one of the things that's definitely needed is let's promote some emotional intelligence amongst our community.
Yeah.
agree.
Which
I
is
was telling
drastically
I was
That's a
telling
great
Ryan
point.
this
That's a
morning it's a matter of culture,
Mm-hmm.
because
That's
okay, they say you bring the jobs to the community, you won't have all that crime. I am convinced, and maybe I shouldn't be one to say this, that there are some people you could bring the jobs, but they won't take the
Yeah,
jobs.
absolutely.
There are
Yeah.
some people, it's just part of their culture.
Yeah, and it's just
And
I
their
mean,
norm.
And there's a lot of poor communities. Let's be fair. There's probably proportionally there's a lot of poor communities that don't have the crime. We have Appalachia's more poor than some of our inner cities are. I mean, they have no resources. You don't see.
Yeah.
There's just a culture thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. The emotional stability. There's a lot more that needs to be addressed.
That emotional stability, just because
huge.
somebody said something wrong to you,
Yeah, how
or
to deal with
dating your
that.
girlfriend, you don't
Yeah.
have to go kill somebody.
Absolutely.
Exactly. There you go.
it's the breakdown of the family as well.
Right.
I mean, back in the day when my grandfather, I guess, was my age, when black folks were Negroes, the family unit was strong. You know, you had a physician, you had a doctor, you had
Right.
someone who worked
Right.
at the plant, all in the same neighborhood, and so people sat down at the table together.
Right.
And even if you didn't have much money,
Right.
there was a sense of pride, a
Right.
sense of dignity, and I think we've walked away from that. And I don't think that that's really being taught in the home. I mean, nowadays the grandmother is 40 or 32, you know, so
Wow.
just that sense of legacy, I don't think it's really there. And then our greats are dying off, and so who's really, putting that path forward out there?
You know, it's funny, because I'm getting older and older and old. But I look at a lot of things that I see on Facebook or things I see on in the newspaper, and I say, golly, I know how it's going to play out. It's like things you've
Yeah.
seen before. As you get older, you say, gosh, I want to say, sometimes you want to say something. I said, but
That's what wisdom
it,
gives you.
it just depends how people take it. Sometimes
Yes,
people don't take it right, so you say, well, I better not say anything. Case in point, this week, a young lady, well, I guess she's 40.
That's
well,
That's
maybe,
young.
That's young.
That's young.
Very
That's
young.
very, very,
Very
young.
young.
Well,
Very young.
38. now, so 2
no,
years
maybe
away.
she's 38, 39. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the point. She put some pictures of herself on Facebook. She had on a dress and stuff, but the dress was way too
Was it
short.
the grown and sexy?
No,
they were
she was
doing?
just,
Okay.
she said, I feel
Okay.
sexy today.
Oh, okay.
And I'm saying, you need to take off that dress. You need to dress more like a mother, because
right.
she's a mother. But I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
Oh,
But
really?
you know the
My
difference. You
mom
surprised?
uses
No, look
discretion. She's
that's you.
my mother uses discretion very sparingly.
But this goes back in what Tamika just said. And there was a time, when generations passed, where accountability was a big thing. So people held you accountable, and they could call you out without fear of, the parent
Reprisal
coming and
and-
all of
Right,
that
right,
stuff. So that's what I think is missing also
I agree.
culturally from us. Is just that sense of accountability, holding people accountable for their behaviors, and
Right.
a lot of people I find and I can't even just say young people because it's people my age as well. They really are not being called to the carpet on a lot, and don't have people who will
Right.
do that,
That's
who
Hold
right.
them
will,
accountable.
hold them
Yeah.
accountable, and
Right.
they don't have a sense of shame. Now, and
I
as a
know.
psychologist,
They-
but
that's
those,
I
but,
know.
but then,
Yeah.
but then those that comes within a certain group of people. There's certain things
Yeah.
that would shame my friends. That if you have a group of friends or a group of peers, that
It
I
will
can
not.
do this with them. I can bring them this news. And then there's another way of that though, saying I was telling them that successful blacks can't be let off the hook though, and this is why. Because a lot of us are making it and doing well, especially black males. I'll say this. I'll be specific with that. And so me and my friends, I mean, we're doing well. We have good jobs. We're good role models. But what are we doing though, day to
Yeah.
day?
Yeah.
That's
Are,
good.
are black males going? Where are you going into the boys' club ever? Are you volunteering at a library? What, I mean, are we just complaining about it at our dinner
I
tables?
totally agree with
Are
that.
we just on our vacations complaining about it with each other? What are we doing? I never forget, Mom. No, I played for Jake Boy. He used to come pick us up and take us to basketball practice. There was a lot more volunteering in the city,
Yeah.
like for coaching teams. They had nothing in it for them. He would pick up like 8 guys on a work night and take them all home after practice,
Yeah.
all over the city.
Yeah.
So what are the successful black males doing to help their communities? Are you just complaining about it?
Other than complaining,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
a great point.
And to this point, though, Tamika, one of her clients, we had him on the show the other week. They just gave. Why don't you tell them what they did?
Yeah, it's the Black Male Engagement, and they have programs here in the city of Detroit, Baltimore, and so what they did was they identified 10 African American men
Right.
who are like the unsung heroes who are doing those type of
See,
things that
that's
you
great.
talked about,
That's
and
great.
they gave them $10,000 each to
Really?
kickstart. So
Oh.
$100,000 here in the city of Detroit, seed money
That's good.
to help our young
awesome.
black
That's
men.
good.
So from K
That's awesome.
through college.
Oh wow.
Yes.
And
Oh,
they were
that's
already
awesome.
established.
Yeah.
And this is one thing I know: a lot of young black males are coming back and doing some things, and I think that's very,
think
very
that's-
important
that's very
because I think there was a gap somewhere where nobody did
Yeah,
anything.
guys were
Yeah.
just like so hungry to, and it's good to be
get out.
successful, and it's good. You know, it's like running somewhere. You're not looking back to see who you're leaving behind. You know what I'm saying? But I think there are a lot of black males doing it, and I'm not even saying you have to be. I'm just saying it can even go read at a library, just like you're saying. You're talking about their peer group. Maybe if you put a few black males in some of these peer groups and saying, "Look, well, Mr. Perryman's out here doing something that can help." I'm not saying it'll change overnight, but I'm saying it can be something
Yes.
little as volunteering at a boys' club or something.
And I do think just from, working with my client, Be Me, it is happening, but the
Good.
media, there's no spotlight on
Good.
it. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
that's-
like pulling teeth to try to get, we did secure media, but they're uninterested in
Right.
hearing that part of the
Yeah, I agree.
story, and I find that to be very interesting.
It's not sensational
It's not
enough.
sensational.
Yeah, it's not exciting.
I agree.
Well, that's why I try to have as many of these people on as possible to
Absolutely.
give them some exposure because people need to know. We hear the
Definitely.
bad news
All the time.
all
Definitely,
day.
the time.
All day, and I just really, really hate it. Let's go on to that mother. Yesterday, Matt Lauer had on the lady who was in Arizona who left her kids in the car to go to a job interview. The kids were left in the car. She was 38 minutes, I think, in that job interview.
How can you function?
She left the keys in the car, the door unlocked, and the temperature had gotten up to 100 degrees. And they arrested her, and people campaigned, but she was doing what she had to do. I have some issues with it.
I have some issues. I saw the interview on the Today Show. This was not a 20-something. This was a grown 30-something-year-old woman. So the wisdom that we talked about earlier, not sure where that was. And, I get it. I feel that she was in a jam. But to leave the kids in a car like that in Arizona temperature, a 6-month baby, a 2-year-old, I think she would have done better by leaving the kids at home with the AC on as opposed to just leaving them in the car. I mean,
And just taking her chances. You're right.
I think we can safely say
Unfortunately.
she didn't get the job.
She did.
You-
this,
I don't
No.
think so. They, ain't giving, they're not
They
giving-
got the cops showing
like-
up outside
Be
the
like, "Your
employer.
judgment's terrible. I'm sorry. I can't hire you." And like, believe it or not, I mean, when are people gonna get the memo? Your kid can die. Like just
Yes,
this morning, I'm walking out the
quickly.
door. 10-month-old baby died
Yeah.
yesterday, and I forgot where. Mama got taken to jail because was in the car for 2 hours. I mean, this has been happening for years. Pets, cats, birds.
Yeah.
Don't leave anything with a pulse in a hot car. And there has
Yeah.
to be a little. Here's my issue. There has to be a little bit of zero tolerance on this.
Yeah.
Because then you got people say, okay, people are getting off on this. They're, the problem I had when I was talking to Mom, we were talking before, is okay, I've had a chance when me and my wife wanted to go somewhere, we didn't have a sitter. We just don't have anybody. I believe that she didn't have anybody. Maybe you take them to the car, leaving them for 30-some minutes. I'll even, single mom probably. I'm just assuming. Desperation, needs the job, has to do something. We all think irrationally when we're desperate. Why'd you keep the keys in there? is what I don't understand with the door unlock.
Well,
keys
I
in there.
told Ryan last night when we were talking about this, I think she left the key in there for somebody else to come that she knew said, well, I got my appointment's at 9 or whenever it is. And you come, the keys will be in the car, you can
See, why
start
didn't
it.
she say that? That would have made it sound
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then you
That
have
would've
to,
been
then you're
better.
roping in another person. They would have had to go ask them.
Right.
See, taking
But
the
that's
keys,
what I think happened too.
But taking-
And I think it was wrong. I have
taking
no
the keys
doubt.
out the
Wrong,
car is
yes.
just a natural reaction when you stop your car, though. Like you almost have to leave them in there on purpose.
Yeah.
So why are you leaving the keys in there? I'm not going to go to a vindictive place to say that okay, she wants somebody to take. I just don't know why you leave the keys and like. I just don't understand.
So
wasn't
that's a thought. That's a, like you said, maybe it was someone else on the way.
I'm a drama
or-
teacher and a writer, and I know that. I watched her yesterday, and I was very unconvinced.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you found that too?
Yeah, she was just. I didn't fall for it. I mean,
Where were you
I'm
unconvinced
not
stuff? What do you think? What do you think happened?
Just-
I think that there was a little more to it.
Then she's
Yeah.
explaining.
Yeah.
Well, I'm reading it. I didn't see the interview, but I'm saying what really stood out for me is the statement she made. Well, this babysitter flaked on me. You know, to me, that's like taking that like I was victimized because this babysitter
Right.
at the last minute flaked on me. I would not have even.
She has not
attempted to-
taken real responsibility for
Yes,
it.
again, accountability. Taking accountability for it. It was poor
And
judgment.
my
as
thing
Ryan
is, you have a
said.
6-month-old. Aren't you? Are
6-month-old
you?
baby is
You
young.
are
He's
you
gonna be
in touch with the
crying.
daddy?
No. Well, that's why we're having this
Uh-oh, here we go,
conversation.
honey.
And then
I don't
I
want-
was floored by this 115 that was raised.
$115,000.
$15,000 that was raised. So to me, it appears as if people are giving her the green light or co-signing the behavior. Now, obviously, the money is going to go into a trust for the kids' education.
That's why I'm not. Really.
But you know what? That's with this new crowdfunding, it's not unusual now for people to raise a great deal of money before they know all the facts. That's
Right.
the
I
issue.
agree.
Emotional.
I'm attempting to purchase a very luxurious car in the
Oh,
next.
okay.
So if anyone wants to crowdfund,
The Dr.
Right, you got to
Rose
PayPal
Blue-
account.
put some money.
Bloom Fund.
The Bloom Fund, exactly.
right.
But it's amazing how much money you think about. Even our friend, and now I say that very sarcastically in Florida. What's his name? That took. I don't even.
Gentleman.
Zimmerman. You know, the money he raised through crowdsourcing and crowdfunding. People are just doing that so quickly because, it pulls at your heartstrings. The story of this mom who's trying to make it or what have you. It's just part of just social influence that affects us. But again, like Brenda, I don't think she's telling the entire
I don't
story.
think the
here.
entire
but I
story is
didn't-
being
yeah.
I
told.
didn't get enough. She was being sinister, but I just cannot understand why you leave the keys in there. I just don't understand why you leave it with the door unlocked. Like even if I run into the cleaners and I see my kids in the
Yeah.
car, I am not leaving my
Yeah.
keys in it.
Yeah, because they could have been somebody could have stole the car.
and drove
Yeah.
off.
Maybe
that's
what
why
she wanted to
She
happen.
doesn't
And
have
Matt
the
Lauer
best
didn't answer.
judgment.
He didn't ask her that question, and I'd love to ask her that question. The only reason I'm not going to really get upset about the funny thing is going to go to the kids' education.
Exactly.
With otherwise, with probably her financial situation. Hopefully, I mean, as 100% of that goes to the kids, I'm fine. She's not going to benefit of that. It's unfortunate, but you're right. She probably didn't. get
I
it out.
think she probably,
No.
after she got out,
It
went,
hurts her. Yeah.
"Woo, I got out of that one."
And her attorney was there too during the interview, so I'm sure that they looked at the questions ahead of time prior
Right.
to
Oh, I
Matt.
know they did.
And they
Yeah.
probably
'Cause
took
it felt like Matt wanted to,
because
dig
he's a
little
very good
deeper.
interviewer.
He
though.
is.
Yes,
He
it
really.
felt like he wanted to give a little bit more, but maybe there
Attorney
was-
spoke up
yeah.
when they talked about the
You
money.
noticed
That's
that?
the
Yeah.
first time when they.
Yeah.
You see, he raised 150. He said, "Well, that money's going to the."
Yeah.
And he may be working pro bono. I don't know how she's paying him.
Yeah, because he gets good
He gets
coverage.
good
Notoriety
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I mean, and I'm not trying to be hard-hearted because as parents, sometimes we've done things where we say,
Have you
"Oh,
ever left a child?
I was
Have
No.
you
when
ever
I was
left-
in
Have you
third
been
grade.
left before?
Third grade, my mother left me in the sable station wagon.
well, you all
No.
were." Well, one
No,
thing about
she
Iran and Holiday, they weren't babies.
We were. It was-
And they all came in. "We got to use the bathroom." I said, they all came in. "Where's the bathroom?" We
Okay,
gotta-
next topic is.
He's traumatized from it. But I left my son before. My at home.
Which one?
Ian, which it probably explains a
How
lot.
old was he?
He was about before I had, at that time, I think I just had my daughter, and my sister lived in the same subdivision just around the corner, and she was having an event. And like, I gathered the family in the car, and we went, and I got there, and I was like, I'm missing a child. And
was
he
a
was
mistake.
still
So
at
that's a
home.
mistake, though.
He was still at home asleep, but it was like I came in and I had the car carrier and all, you know, everything. And they go, well, where's Ian? And I'm like, oh my God, he's still at home.
He's in a dead sleep.
See, that's an accident, though.
That was
Yeah.
a mistake.
And I
yeah.
say that only, and the reason I say that, I was looking yesterday, they were on the news talking about really starting some type of campaign that tells people, you know, look before
Yes.
you lock.
Yes.
Because they said this happens, the policemen say, regardless of how much publicity we get out there about don't do this, don't do
still
this.
happening.
It happens so often that it's not just sometimes, especially parents, we could get so distracted
Think
at
people
times.
forget their kids in the car?
No, you know what? Obviously,
That
they
one
do.
gentleman, that one
well,
guy
that
who got,
was
who
In
got
Atlanta?
arrested.
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
I
that
mean,
was a whole nother
he said
story.
He forgot in the, I mean, to forget, I guess you can. It can happen. You forget
Yeah.
a lot of other things. You can happen. It can happen.
It can happen, but his
His
you know,
is
when
kinda-
I don't have life insurance policies out on my kids, you know,
His
and
is kinda-
searching how long does it take for
Yeah,
a
and
child
that's why
to
it has
die
to be
in a
zero
car.
tolerance to it, 'cause once you start letting some people off, they'll find out that's a way to kind of,
Yeah.
if they have a rust a lot, or if they kind of, unfortunately, God forbid this happens, people don't want their kid anymore. I hope they're not. I'm seeing it on the news really once a week now. when
Yeah,
Somebody kid is dying. In
And
the
it's
car.
happening even more than
It's
that.
happening.
Those are just what's being
Yeah,
reported.
and that's unfortunate.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we just have to, I think, as especially parents, we can become so distracted that we have to be more alert just in general.
Well, we kind of automatically put on our seatbelts now. So there are things you automatically do.
Yeah, check that your garage door is closed.
Right,
and-
right, right. And
that
then
your
when you
kid
have
has been
multiple
dropped
kids,
off.
you have them in the car. You make sure everybody's out the car because you got to lock the car. Seriously,
yeah.
there are different things. Now let's go to water shutoffs. They suspended water shutoffs for 15 days so that people could get a chance to make arrangements, so forth and so on. Now I've read an article where they say the water shutoffs are racially motivated. This is a lawsuit that they're filing. What do you all think about
I
that?
get tired of the race card all the time.
All the time.
All the time. I
That's-
don't believe it's racially motivated. I think Detroit's just trying to get some money. It was poor management, and at this point, they're trying to get money wherever they can. And the majority of residents in Detroit just happen to be African American. So I hate to hear that, but again, the media can portray it and spin it any way they want to. With it being suspended for 15 days, the ones they've already gotten to, does that give them any reprieve? Like, do they go back out there and turn theirs on? Because
No.
it's like, yeah, I know. And I saw yesterday where tons of Canadians are coming
They
over
brought,
bringing
Yeah.
water.
brought over water
They
yesterday.
have a fund for that too. Like they opened up a fund that people can donate money to help pay for people's
Water bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, hey, I got one. I got a water bill.
Just a couple of things I think about this water shutoff. Obviously, we talked about it on the show a couple of weeks ago, and so I'm very surprised regarding the lack of elected officials that have been vocal about it. I have seen Congressman Conyers has been very vocal, but just across the board, there may have been a few others. I'm very surprised at how quiet or how everyone is kind of tiptoeing around this situation. I know Reverend Bullock and a few others have had some rallies, so I'm grateful to see that. My other concern is, what about the big corporate entities out here that owe $80,000,
Yeah.
$100,000?
That they're not.
So folks that are 2 months behind, less than $200 are being cut off.
Right.
And again, you know, the race card, as Dr. Rose said, Detroit is over 80% African American. So those would be the ones impacted. But those are our senior citizens. Those are, you know, our moms with the small kids. And so it's greatly impacting them. I hate to see them have to suffer behind some political.
And mismanagement.
mismanagement,
They
yeah.
did not go after people for water bills.
I
They
think-
didn't. Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mom.
No, I was just saying, I used to, and I told you all this last week, that I used to go make arrangements with the water company. So I had 3 kids, and they were taking showers every day and everything. And sometimes I get these big water bills. And so I go and I get to divide them up into 3 ways so that I could pay them. I mean, back in the day.
Yeah.
but I think the more consistent thing is the Detroit mismanagement of everything. That's where it starts.
Yep.
And it's kind of a sticky situation for them. It's like people kind of know they owe it, but since you're not really coming for it, doesn't mean you don't owe it anymore. We've all been there, have gotten a bill or something. It's, oh, okay, I didn't know, but doesn't mean I don't owe. I have to still pay it. But then you're talking health issues, children, senior citizens.
Right.
Yeah.
People just can't go without water either. But I did hear, like, after they said, look, your water's getting shut off, about over 1,000 people came and paid the water
Yeah.
bill too, though. So it worked for some. To say it's racially, I mean, we can't keep, every time we go there, it really takes away from the times when things are really racially
Absolutely.
motivated.
It's like crying wolf.
So we can't keep going there. Most of the Detroit residents are black. I'm sure there are some white people who don't have water as well. But I don't think this is a situation when they're just saying, I'm going to shut the black people water off. The business part, I'm going to play devil's advocate saying, look, these people are employing people. Their employees going. They got to go to work. I'm assuming that's why. I don't know enough about the situation to say that. But corporate entities usually are the last people that get touched. They do touch residents and communities.
And they, and they are allowing, the corporates, they should go after them as well, definitely. But they are allowing people to make arrangements. That's the good thing. But I have to ask, how are they allowing people? Some people may not have transportation to go to the water department.
Right.
If you've ever tried to call a city department, that is like,
I heard
Yeah.
that's
You
terrible.
go
Traumatic.
you call
To
a main
the
number, they
abyss.
get you
Look.
another number. That's like loaning. It's like loaning number to a cousin who doesn't pay you back,
Uh-huh.
and then you come a day before you need it. Hey man, give me that $200. You got to set expectations. You cannot, which I think you cannot say I need this money in a week.
Yeah.
When you have a community, this isn't Bloomfield Hills, so to speak. This isn't where people can just go into their savings account or their different accounts and get money. You have to know who your constituents are
Absolutely.
and provide expectations for that.
Okay,
They
this
had to.
hour is going fast. We got to go on. They had these articles because this week is the 313th anniversary of the city of Detroit. And, 313 with that
313.
being the area code and all of that. And they were putting down the worst mayors in history, and they had Kwame Kilpatrick at number 1. I hated to see that, but there were some bad mayors. They had 5 of the worst, but he was the one that they had down. I mean, so much. That's an example of so much potential going to waste. Do you
Yeah.
think he was too young, or do you think he was? What do you think?
I mean, when this was all happening, I was living in Ohio. I haven't lived in Detroit in years, so I was able to see this from afar and hear people in Ohio talk about it. And it's like the same gifts that made him successful are the same gifts that brought him down in the end.
gift and a curse.
It was gift and a curse, and it was such good timing. Obama was becoming a hot commodity. Detroit was on, and it was such a good time if he would have capitalized on some of the things he was doing. I just think immaturity and he just had a lot going on at a young age that kind of took him down. It's kind of it's a tragic story. It's kind of too bad.
Well, then, conversely, for the best mayors, the top 5, they had Coleman Young. They had him down as 4th. Ryan, you had an experience with Coleman Young.
Yeah, when out of college, is this when I went to visit
Well,
Detroit?
you were,
Out
yeah,
of
you were
high
in
school-
12th
out of high
grade.
school, I'm sorry, out of high school, when I was visiting University of Detroit, it was kind of the tour. I went to visit some prominent guys within the community. I visited somebody from the Tigers, and I went and sat in his office for like a half an hour.
At his place, right?
Yeah.
He had on a robe.
Yeah, he had on a robe. He's very relaxed. I talked to him. I'm in high school. I don't even know what questions to really ask him. I'm just like, hey, how you doing? I'm thinking about going to Detroit. I'm Ryan. He talked to me. Very nice man. Always remember that.
What did he say about Alabama, though? Because one of the schools recruiting you.
UAB.
Yeah.
I forgot. Do you know?
I remember what he said.
I don't remember what
He said, nobody goes to Alabama. You had me
It's
laughing.
all exporting up.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It
hilarious.
was kind of a dig in there, like, hey, I'm going to visit University of Alabama. He said, nobody goes to Alabama. I was like, okay, I'll just remember that.
Because he's from
Yeah, he's
Tuscaloosa
from
and
Tuscaloosa,
stuff.
and that's where our family's from.
Hilarious.
That's where our family's from. And if you close your eyes and listen to him talk, you would have thought you heard my dad because they talked the same
Same
way. My
dialect.
father was funny just like that. And they had some of the quips. In fact, Jaleesa, my intern, was helping me clean out a closet, and we found the little red book I have on the sayings of Coleman Young. And I bought it because I thought it was hilarious. I had to buy it twice because I loaned it to him, they didn't give it back. But he always had some great sayings. He says,
These are great.
on bias and affirmative action, he said, some people say affirmative action is discrimination in reverse. You're damn right. The only way to handle discrimination is to reverse it. And
He was just so quick.
yeah, on the abandonment of Detroit, he said, no other city in America, no other city in the Western world has lost the population at that rate. And what's at the root of that loss? Economics and race, or should I say, race and economics.
And that's still true today.
Yeah,
Many
but look what's
with
happening.
the regentrification, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of gentrification taking place in Detroit. But case in point, the other day, my brother and I took my mother, we went back through the neighborhoods we grew up in where I mean, it was horrible in some of those.
Yeah.
Horrible, just simply horrible. One of the houses isn't even in existence anymore. The street,
Just
I mean,
one?
Right.
what I'm saying is there's a house, then a blank spot where my house was, and then the house. I mean, it was just ridiculous. What are they going to do with the rest of the city? It seems like they're concentrating in certain areas.
Keep saying they're going to shrink the carbon footprint is what I read every time. It means they're going to try to, the police force can't handle the amount of-
Entire city.
the entire city. But that's just such a huge project to rezone people who don't have the means to rebuild. I mean, if you look at Grandma's block on Burlingame, it's just, that's some Dexter and Burlingame by Davidson. It's pretty much extinct over there.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
was-
2 houses on that block.
Yeah.
2 houses on the entire block. So you have
On that side of the
so much
street.
of the city like that, and it's too bad that part. Talking about me, it's too bad that every time I see Detroit on TV though, they only show those parts of the city though, and people are always asking me, "Oh, I saw Detroit in the news." I'm like, "You only saw 2 or 3
Yeah,
blocks of
absolutely.
the city. It doesn't look like that in the whole city." And that's my irritating part of that. But
Oh.
it's just that's gonna be it's. I don't, is there a plan or vision for what they're going to do about that, or is this something-
Farms.
Oh, farm.
Yeah,
farming,
I mean,
right.
that's one
Yeah,
of the
they have a
things they're
bunch
talking
of
about.
urban
That's
farming.
smart. Very smart.
Well, yeah, we're going back to a route, not the whole route.
Sharecropping.
Singing as we're-
Sharecropping. Oh, I don't laugh about it because a lot of people are getting food. If I knew how to do it, I might do it in my
Oh,
backyard.
come
but-
on, come on. Who's back?
With those nails.
And then
They're-
Mayor Duggan
they're
does
my
have
nails.
Mayor Duggan does have a program where you can buy these homes on the auction block, and so they are auctioning off homes, and so
And it's going to take
Yeah.
time.
It's
Yeah.
going to take a lot of time though. But then I can't say that I had some friends come down here a couple months ago. They were downtown. They liked it a lot. They were down in Belle Isle, and they said, "Wow, Detroit's so it's going to take a while." Wow, but
I don't care what you do, though, unless you change the crime situation.
right,
That's a big situation. That's a
Yeah.
big elephant in the room.
crime in schools and
And
that-
schools, definitely
that's-
schools.
That's your pillar.
Now, there are 2 new shows on television. One is, oh no, let's start with The Best Man. They're talking about a 3rd best man. You all liked the movie, didn't you?
yes.
I found it entertaining. I
Well, I
enjoyed
made
it.
$20 million in like a week. I mean, people like it, and it makes. I think what's good that I don't think blacks are the only ones going to see it. So
Yeah.
I think that
Absolutely.
even though I may not be a fan of, I'll gung ho a black movie with black actors in it. If they're going to make it me, I mean, there's a lot of other sequels out there that shouldn't be made.
Well, one thing
So
that
why
was
should we
good
be any
about
different?
it, you showed people, some making money, some losing money or trying to make it, or, dealing with the topical issues of today, where today you could be on top, tomorrow you could be on bottom,
Right.
and stuff like that. That was cool. My only thing is, I just think it could have been a better script. This whole Morris Chestnut thing. Morris Chestnut got on my nerves on that thing.
Because he wasn't Edris.
No, not because he wasn't Idris. Pardon everybody. But
Enjoyed Morris.
no, I mean the attitude he had when Tay Diggs and his wife
Yeah.
came in the house. All that.
I mean,
that
it wasn't Oscar worthy. Let's
No, I
He was
wasn't.
like that in the first one, back in '99.
Yeah, I guess that's his ego, but I can't see people wanting to be friends with him because of that. But anyway, it's coming along. Now, in The Raw, a new reality show sees contestants date completely naked. I mean, what do you think about that?
Oh Lord.
Has anyone seen that
Yeah,
show?
I've seen previews of. I mean, it's just reality shows, Mom. They'll keep making them. I know you were saying yesterday that. I know you said yesterday they're going to run out, but I think they're only going to get. I mean, they haven't hit a ceiling yet. I think they just.
Right. Like
Yeah.
I remember talk shows. They had 1 million talk shows
Yeah.
on. Then they hit a ceiling and they started
I don't think
dying.
reality because they keep thinking of something. They're
They're
always like I saw
naked
one
and
other day
dating.
that talked about bad like parenting or parents who do weird stuff with their kids. It's a reality show. Like this one woman has their sons. Okay, we're gonna sell this in the garage, and they like have kung fu with each other. Like they go over how people are parenting their kids, so that they'll always think of
People are coming up with
people,
new
and
ideas.
people watch them. Bravo has created a model, and and people will always do it because they prove to make people famous.
Well, what about the one Married at First Sight, where you don't see the person you're marrying until you get in there?
Well, they have a spinoff, Divorced After 3 Months. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
But that's what
I was like,
After
I was
30
like, really?
days or something.
Is that on here? I didn't see that one.
but that's what it's going. You know, we live
Yeah.
in a society.
Right.
Hey, what they can just go and get it.
And they
get
didn't
a
say they had
divorce.
to stay together.
Exactly.
Like The Bachelor, they never stay together. People just want to see the road to when they get married. So nobody
I
really
don't
said.
understand The Bachelor because The Bachelor's kissing all these women,
Yeah, I can't get into it. I wouldn't do
Mom,
that.
and
it's
people
not-
are into
But
that.
it's not for. I mean, like my wife Laura is as educated as ever, and she's very low key. I walk in the room every evening and I see these housewives on the TV.
On your
It's
TV.
plastered on every TV.
It sounds like
And
my
these
husband.
people, I gotta fall asleep on it. I can't take it. And like they're in each other's business all day. That's all they do.
Some of these things are just like train wrecks. You can't help
Or
but
can we-
look at
can
it.
we watch- I'm like, can we watch fiction, please? Or like, can I just watch some fiction? It's like
That is fiction,
reality.
believe it or not.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, that's a
It
good
is.
point.
There was a show my daughters and I started watching together, and it was called I Want to Marry Harry.
Oh yeah,
And the
but
reason
yeah.
we watched that because my daughters was like, I can't believe these women are so. I said that's why they had to come to U.S. and find. I hate to
What
say
is that
it.
show? I've never
It
seen
was women. It was a dating show like The Bachelor, but it was called. They found a Harry lookalike.
Harry.
He really looked like
Oh.
him, and so they had all these women believing it was him.
Stupid. one.
But they were all American girls because they couldn't go anywhere else in the
Oh,
world.
so they
and
really thought it
convince-
was him?
Yes, I
With
mean
the
they had the
accent?
They look like
helicopters, they had the Secret Service around,
Wow.
take them out on yachts, on boats. They had pictures
really
of the
thought it was
royal
Prince Harry?
family. Yeah, they were staying in a castle. They had twerking contests, and I'm saying, come on, like women, do you really think the royal family is going to
Wow.
Harry might do it, but
in private?
right,
Look
right,
in private. Look,
I like Harry. I like Harry
That's why there's no
personally.
ceiling on it, Mom. For that
it's
reason
no.
alone.
It was hilarious.
Right
like,
now, there's not one.
we watched it on marathon on demand because it's like these women are just not
I'm
the
gonna look. I'd watch
sharpest
that.
knives
I'd kinda
in the.
watch that. My wife's gonna come in and see. I want to marry here on TV. It's my turn.
Well, I just think that personally, it's just getting. I mean, they're just pulling stuff out there here, and we're talking about launching a reality show, but ours won't be like that. It's a kind of different
But
than
then they
that.
call it. Look, everybody has a remote. You can turn it off. You don't have to watch it.
Oh, I believe it. But you know, just gonna say the doctors. What are the doctors?
Married to Medicine?
Married to Medicine. Oh
I've never
God,
watched that.
What's that? Oh,
awful.
That's
Bravo.
I've seen it one time.
I think it's Bravo.
Bravo has like 20 of them. I
Yeah.
can't
Remember,
keep up.
Bravo used to be like a class.
Yeah.
Artsy.
Bravo
It
like a
was
artsy- now
yes.
it's, what's his name? Andy.
Andy Cohen is the richest man
Andy
in
Cohen.
television.
Yeah.
right
Main
now.
instigator.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
those reunions are just like, what is that? They're just talking, and then he waits till. Let me just ask enough questions.
It's a Mayweather
to get
fight.
everybody so mad.
Instigator.
They probably go to happy hour before those, so then they probably like give little notes in their mailboxes in their hotel rooms. It's like he tries to get them to a point, and then he gets all shocked.
Mm-hmm.
People are off their couches at each other.
I
Yeah.
know.
He
I
needs
know.
to be careful. Someone might jump on him.
Yeah, he
because
need-
he's always instigating.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like he picks the question like, no, this isn't hard enough. This question isn't hard enough.
But that's what keeps people tuned in.
Yeah.
That sensationalizing of just the emotions
But
and
I think a lot of
Right.
young people watch these shows, and I don't want young
Well,
people.
I think it's people my age. our
Yeah,
40s
but
that
young
watch them.
people too watch these
they do.
shows,
They do.
and they think that girls have to fight.
I agree.
I mean, they're showing black women fighting.
well,
That's
that's
the
where
bad
that's
girls.
where
And
the community
love
and the
and
parents
hip-hop.
come in
Yeah.
and have to because
Yeah.
kids are gonna see this stuff. You know, my they have the internet.
Right.
I'll it's some there'll be a funny video that us, you know, of the 40s put up on Facebook, and I want to call my daughters in, like, you gotta watch it, Mom. That is so old. We saw that like last year, like, you know.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so kids are gonna see it, but it's our job as parents to kind of, you know, just let them know this is so far from
Because there's kids from all walks of life
appropriate.
watching those videos too. Though. There's not just young black women, young white women
all over the
watching it.
world.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
all over the
So you
world.
just hopefully you put enough values into your kids that when they see it, they can decipher. Hopefully.
Well, did I do that with you all? I remember once I turned to something and you all said, "Ma, that's rated R."
Yeah,
Sounds
I think
like
we
my
grew
kid.
up long from that. Though. I mean, we just knew the difference, though. I knew what I get
Yeah.
my butt whooped for and what I wouldn't get my butt whooped for, and we just stayed away from some of the things that
You
we
were
get in trouble
a
for.
butt whooper?
Oh, I had
Did you get a
to.
lot of whoopings?
I was.
Mom?
You know, we had our fair share. My mom can be temperamental sometimes, but she was fair. That's all we were here about.
I
She
try
was
to
fair.
be fair. I mean, I
We
try to
pushed her.
do my
We pushed
best.
her.
But yeah, they did. I mean, how many times? But then there were certain things I never get upset with. When Michael Jackson's Thriller came out, and they said, "Well, we're going to show it again at 4:42 in the morning." Ryan was up at 4:42.
Yeah, I
Did-
mean, yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
We had a liberal household where kids were everywhere. I mean, that's when you had a thing in our community when adults used to, like, 16-year-olds would play with 10-year-olds, and it
Yeah.
kind of, we all play together, and it wasn't really like a clique or group
Yeah.
thing. We all played together,
Everyone.
and that's one thing. My mom let older guys come over and play, and we had the house of dead, and she was kind of good with that. But now, what you see now in our community, you have some of the older kids who aren't doing so well, taking some of the younger kids and kind of letting them roll with
Yeah.
them. Before it was kind of like, look, I'm not doing what I should be doing. You do you. I'm gonna do me. Like when I couldn't play academically in my freshman year of high school, you had a lot of people who were like, look, man, you don't need to be doing that. You need to not hang out with us
Yeah.
anymore. You need to they kind of knew that. Now it's kind of like you need the peers are taking them.
Yeah.
You know, they're taking some are misguided. The older kids are kind of driving up to the schools, taking some of the kids who are not going to school, kind of recruiting them. And I think that's
Gosh, well, I have to
Unfortunate.
invite you back on the show.
Yeah.
You really made this a good group this morning. We
good to
have
be
one
here. I
every
hear-
week.
hear about the show all the time, Facebook, and
And it's
It's
so
good
good.
to
I
be
told
here.
him it's like I know him already. I just
Yeah.
met him today, but we
Well-
hear about Ryan so
Yes.
much.
Well, because he's the one you don't see.
yo, if Tiffany gets another headache, just give me a call.
Okay, everybody, join us again next week for Table Talk, and I'd like to thank Tamika, Rose, and